don't have the answer, and we actually just got a briefing from folks in the Biden administration. They couldn't give us the answer. So, Secretary Mayorkas says the border is secure, even though, our eyes tell us exactly the opposite is happening down there. And then when we ask the basic questions, can you account for the 15,000 Haitian migrants where they're at? Or how many have been deported? We think it's 1,400 been flown back. How many have been sent to other ICE facilities? And they can't give us a full accounting of that. So, again, this is just one more example of the Biden administration doesn't seem to be able to do anything right.
Is it a situation where they know and don't want to divulge this information? Do you think they can't find it out because they simply can't keep track of everyone? Or is this, where they're trying to intentionally hide this from us?
Yeah. No, good question, John. I don't know, but my gut kind of points more to the former because, when you have month after month, I've been saying this, I don't know for how long, but it's the truth. When March was the highest month on record for illegal crossings on our southern border until the month of April, and then April was the highest month until May. May was the highest month until June. June was the highest month until July when 212,000 illegal crossings, and that doesn't account for the Haitian migrant situation in Del Rio. But when that's the pattern, you almost have to think this is intentional, this is deliberate, and if it's intentional and deliberate, maybe they do have the number and they just refuse to tell us. So I don't really know, but the point is, we'd like to know as the American people what exactly is going on.
I mean, I think we deserve to know, given the national security implications. So there's that. And of course, we know Democrats, they continue to deflect when it comes to their responsibility. We don't hear much about the root causes anymore, but we do have an investigation into the use of horses for border control, whips versus reins thing. We know that's a manufactured scandal here. And of course, they have time to investigate this. But no time to investigate Hunter Biden's laptop or the Biden family's foreign business dealings, do they?
Or this tax situation, as you said, they want to raise our taxes, but meanwhile they didn't pay theirs. At least it looks like that. We'll see. So yeah, there's always a double standard with the left. That's just, we saw it all through the Trump-Russia investigation. We saw it way back with Lois Lerner. We saw it with Hillary Clinton. There's always this double. We saw it with COVID. We had to follow the rules, but the Democrat mayors of big cities, they didn't have to follow the rules. So there's always this double standard. It drives Americans crazy. It's one of the things I think we should be talking more about. And frankly, if we get in the majority, which I think is going to happen, we need to do the kind of investigations that does begin to hold people more accountable.
I mean, everyone, who is a fan of President Biden's, they're so quick to dismiss these Hunter Biden stories. We saw this with social media and the mainstream press last year. But look, we have a sitting president whose son is still likely involved in a Chinese investment firm. We have these emails, and I'm going to read from them here. He asked for $2 million in consulting fees and more on top of that in success bonuses. This is all coming from Business Insider. Here's quoting the email. Since he travels with Dad, he is connected everywhere in Europe and Asia where Gaddafi and Libyan Investment Authority had money frozen. These folks were trying to get this $2 billion unfrozen, but he travels with Dad. We see it here in the email. We know that he was using his family name, but we don't have answers to what's going on right now while the president is still in office.
Yeah, and the thing that bothers me is during the Trump administration, the real collusion was the collusion between big tech and big media to keep information from the American people in the run-up to the 2020 presidential election. I mean, we had an eyewitness, Tony Bobolinsky. We actually had the emails. We had the laptop. The FBI was investigating Hunter Biden, but that was all misinformation. Now, we've learned now that it wasn't, of course, but you knew that last fall. We knew that last fall. I mean, some news outlets reported it, but the big tech companies and big media, they colluded to keep that information, important information, before the most important election we have, a presidential election. And that's the part that ticks off Americans. And now the story comes out, it turns out that wasn't misinformation. It was actually a true story. Well, yeah, of course, and we knew it a year ago.
Yeah, and again, we've heard about this credibility crisis, but it's an accountability crisis. I think what we're dealing with right now, the administration wants to move on to Green New Deal stuff and raising our taxes. Are we ever, without a Republican majority in Congress, are we ever going to get to a place where these folks are held accountable for Afghanistan, for the border, for any of this stuff?
Well, let's hope so. So in addition to the fact that we now know the story about Hunter Biden was in fact not disinformation, not misinformation, but the truth, we also now have what John Durham brought forward this week, where Mr. Zussman has been indicted for a false statement. I think this is real important. It wasn't a false statement made from Mr. Zussman to Mr. Durham and his investigative team. This was the false statement, not a false statement. This was the false statement back in 2016 that Zussman made to Jim Baker, chief counsel at the FBI. That is a whole different animal, and that is why there was a 27-page indictment, not just a few-page indictment of your typical false statement made to investigators, made to the FBI. I think this is significant. We'll have to see where it goes, but hopefully this is going to lead to some people being held accountable for that whole Trump-Russia false narrative that the Democrats peddled for years, that started with the Clinton campaign in 2016.